Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Hari
So, let's continue with the reading test last week. We were doing method of instruction, verse 1. I'm reading the translation again so that we have it in context. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the action of anger, and the urge of the tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So, quickly, what do we remember from what we read from the purport till last week? Yes, sir.
So we read about the frog example, and then we read the hearing.
Which example?
The frog example.
The frog example.
And then we read about hearing is more important than seeing.
Okay.
And a person, like the most intelligent person, he hears and understands it. Then the second class person, he just hears.
You can explain that one very nicely, very quickly, what we read in the very starting of the purport. Different types of intelligence, the different level of intelligence.
So a person who, so the highest intelligent person hears and understands. The second person has to experience. And the third person, even while receiving so many instructions, still doesn't understand.
Right. One more level in between. One is who is just listening about it, is able to understand about it. Second, one who is understanding about others' experiences and learns from it. Third, who have to experience it themselves and then understand. Fourth, the final what Srila Prabhupada calls a rascal is, no matter what they know. Right? Even if they have experienced it themselves, so probably have that category. But okay, we read very quick definitions of how many types of restrictions or vegas that we have to do.
Six.
Who can name it? Let's go from here. Let's try. Remember? I'm coming to you, Prabhu. Remember? Anyone? Look at the video.
Yes.
Yes.
Urge to speak.
Urge to speak.
Urge to.
Yes. Manasa Krodha Vegam. Yes. Stop. Anybody else?
Urge of belly, tongue.
Belly, tongue. Any other?
Okay.
Genitals. Mind. Anger. Okay, good. We've covered everything. So let's read the translation again so that we remember these, right? A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, mind's demands, action of angers, the urge of tongues, belly, and genitals. Those are 6. Okay? What happens to such a person? They become qualified to make disciples of. Basically, they are Krishna conscious, and because they have Krishna, they can get Krishna. Okay? So let's go back to where we left. So we had completed the part of the purport where Srila Prabhupada is talking about these 6 urges overall of what is the definition of them. Right? First he had set up the concept of intelligence, of what is intelligence, and so we should listen and from that try and learn. And from there on we talked about the definition of each of the 6 urges, so what does it mean. Now Srila Prabhupada is going to be using references to help us categorize them and be able to understand the interdependencies between each other. Which is also important for us because when we want to try and control these urges, we need to understand what fuels these urges. Okay? So we're going to start the reading. Okay, do you have the book?
Yeah.
You should be having one over to you.
So we are starting with the paragraph which is when one is fully
Yeah, top.
is in the method of Krishna consciousness. That's the one that we have to start. The one which is highlighted. Do you want me to count the paragraph for you or something?
Can I see the page?
What's the first one? So you will find the words which says Krishna Surya Sama, and from that the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 paragraphs from the quotation.
When one is fully practiced, right? This one. I can do it.
When one is fully practiced, yes, you can start that.
When one is fully practiced in the methods of Krishna conscious control, he can become qualified to be a bona fide spiritual master. In his Anuvritti explanation of the Upadeshamrita, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes that our material identification creates 3 kinds of urges: the urge to speak, the urges or demands of the mind, and the demands of the body. When a living entity falls victim to these 3 types of urges, his life becomes inauspicious. One who practices resisting these demands or urges is called a tapasvi, or one who practices austerities. By such tapasya, one can overcome victimization by the material energy, the external potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So one thing before we come to the categorization, Srila Prabhupada is talking about being a tapasvi. Tapasvi is one who is doing tapasya. Tapasya means some type of austerities. In this case, the austerities is to try and control the urges. Right? The different urges that we talked about. One who is trying to control them is going to become a tapasvi because they are doing the tapasya, the austerities to try and control this, which is not an easy task to do. In the second verse from the purport, Srila Prabhupada is going to emphasize on the tapasya concept even further. So that is what we are going to part till then. But here is the, based on what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had said, they have done the categorization of these urges, which is very helpful for us. Right? What we have been talking about is the urge to speak, the urge of demand of the mind, and then there are the demands of the body. And we will talk about the demand of the bodies as being the demands from the senses coming in the same line. That is what we will start talking about in detail. Okay? So let's go to the next. You found the words?
Yeah.
Okay, then let's go to the next.
Um,
Then we refer.
when we refer to the urge to speak, it's that right? Okay. When we refer to the urge to speak, we refer to useless talking, such as that of the impersonal Mayavadi philosophers, or of persons engaged in fruitive activities, technically called karma, or of materialistic people who simply want to enjoy life without restriction. All such talks or literatures are practical exhibitions of the urge to speak. Many people are talking nonsensically and writing volumes of useless books, and all this is the result of the urge to speak. To counteract this tendency, we have to divert our talking to the subject of Krishna. This is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.10 to 11.
Jagat pavitram prajanita Tadvarsam tirtham kushanti manasa Nayatrahamsa niramanti ushishaya.
Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for clothes. Since the all-perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there.
Yasmin pratishto Shrivanti gayanti grananti sadhava.
On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, form, fame, forms, pastimes, etc. of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of the world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. The conclusion is that only when we talk about devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead can we refrain from useless, nonsensical talk. We should always endeavor to use our speaking powers solely for the purpose of realizing Krishna consciousness.
Thank you. So, let's work from the conclusion backwards. A couple of very interesting things that Srila Prabhupada is talking about here. Okay, we're talking about the urge to speak. So, one thing he's saying in the conclusion is the fact that if we are not using our tendency or capability to speak, to be speaking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we are on the wrong side. That's basically the conclusion, right? But then there's something very interesting. What do we mean about talking about Supreme Personality of Godhead? There's a quote that Srila Prabhupada gives, we'll look at that. But before that, let's also understand the fact that what Srila Prabhupada is talking here is about writing of books. So all of these different kind of people who are there like, okay, we're taking a Maunavarat, we're not going to speak at all, but I'm going to pass on notes, written notes. That's cheating, right? Basically talking about this, speaking is not just using the words in terms of verbal speaking. It also means in the form of our writings, in the form of any other ways of communication of your mind getting externally manifested in communication is all part of speaking. So even if you are writing nonsensical books, which is not following the example that is given over here in the quotation, it still falls under the same category. You can be doing, even like, we'll say, okay, I'm not speaking, but I'm doing WhatsApp. It also falls into the same bucket. Right? There is no bypassing the concept that you're engaging yourself in just talks which is not related to this. Right? Now, what does it say over there? Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord. What are the glories of the Lord? Are we talking about Lord Himself only? When we read books, amazing books such as Srimad Bhagavatam, we are talking about the glories of the Lord's devotees also, His activities also. We sometimes talk about Srila Prabhupada. When we were coming in, we were listening to Srila Prabhupada Dilamrita. Is that falling under the same category? Yes. Because Krishna is absolute. Right? So there is no difference between Krishna, his words directly in the form of Bhagavad Gita, for example, his activities as is probably given in Krishna book, his glories about his devotees, the glorification of his temples, dham, any other aspect related to him, which helps us which reminds us about Krishna or is connecting us better with Krishna, is all under the same category. Okay, and the interesting thing over here is said is who alone can satisfy the atmosphere of the whole universe, but are considered to be saintly unto the okay. So anybody who is what does it mean over here by the phrase pilgrimage for crows? Any guesses? Yes.
It's like dead material, so crows usually circle around things that are rotting.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yes. So anything which is dirty in nature, that is where crows go, right? Garbage dump, place food rotting. That becomes the pilgrimage for crows because that is what they get attracted to. So if there is something which is not Krishna conscious, that is a pilgrimage for crows, because in our context, what it means, it does not mean dirty in its literal sense. It means dirty from the perspective that it is materialistic. Anything which is not in connection with Krishna is going to be leading us to being bound into the material world. And anything of that nature is what we are trying to avoid as speaking or writing or in any other ways of communication. Okay? Now, any questions or comments on the urge of speech, which is important for us?
So when we're in association
And tell them to please speak slowly.
Krishna consciousness and that's like
Sorry, just do I repeating that again?
so when we're in association of devotees like our peers,
Right.
how can we talk more about Krishna consciousness in a way that's not like off-putting or overbearing each other?
That's a good question. So when we are engaging with devotees, now it depends on your association with devotee and like which is the devotee with whom you are associating. Okay. Now that falls into two categories. First is the fact that are you associating with somebody who is senior than you, your equal, or lower? So when you're talking to somebody senior, then you are more in the listening mode. Please tell me more about it. It's like Parikshit Maharaj talking to Supreme Court. Please give me more information, more nectar, right? In that case, what you're just saying of it becoming overbearing, it will not apply because the senior is the one who's very happily glorifying Krishna and speaking, right? We have to, yes, we might be the one who would be limited by our capacity to listen as a that's too much, let's go. Right? That can happen because we are still building that tendency, we are still cleansing that up. When we are talking with friends or people on devotional level which is the same, in that case, our interaction is going to be more with respect to how we find common grounds. Right? It could be in the form of funs, joke also. Right? It does not necessarily have to be a very serious conversation. Okay? What that means is, we can be talking about, we had a trip to a dham, let's say, for example, together. And now we're just discussing about that and hey, you know what you did? You did the monkey story of the glasses. Something. Even that kind of interaction between devotees could be pleasing and reminding you of the dham. Right? So, but now when you're talking to somebody who's starting Krishna consciousness and you're probably more senior to them, then you are now the one who has to glorify Krishna for their this thing. Right? Now, the other part to this conversation is also the conversation that we have to do is this is based on their level, but based on sometimes some devotees love talking about Krishna Leela versus somebody else who likes to talk about the dham. Somebody would like to talk about the devotees. Somebody would like to do more detailed discussion on the scripture itself. So depending on the mood of the devotees and what is the common ground you have, such conversations can happen in such a way that it's not becoming uncomfortable or an overdose for anybody. There can be no overdose to Krishna conscious conversation. It can only feel overdose because of our impurities. Right? So we have to understand all of those, and based on that we have to do our intelligent integration, conversations with others, and that is why we have been given intelligence. Right? The variety, why do we talk of associating with devotees and not associating with a devotee? It is also because of that same reason. All these senior devotees who come in for giving classes, why do we listen to everybody? I have my own initiating group, but why do I lovingly listen to others also? Because each one of them brings in the presentation in a particular way, and that could become, we might pick up something new, some different ways to think. And each of them is amazing. So we just interact in such a way that we are able to get that nectar out from their realizations. Right? Any other question or comments? So you need to share your experiences also, because we would want to learn from that also. And this is more of a practical aspect of us, not just theory. How do we do this? Is there any situation where you found yourself speaking about things that you really did not want to speak? Right? Any of that also. Any final question before we move to the next one? Yes.
So when I joined the academy, I would go to work,
Yeah.
and I could feel my entire consciousness changing as I would walk to the subway station.
Right.
Like here, I could say Hare Krishna, I could speak to devotees, and all the topics would be more or less spiritual.
Right.
When I go to work, everything would become so mundane, and I would have to fight the urge not to say Hare Krishna to somebody I live, or something like that. And
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So two things. Very good point. Thank you so much for sharing. Right. So first thing first, when we are going to a workplace or any other similar places, right? Let's take the example of Prahlad Maharaj, for example. Right? Now Prahlad Maharaj was in the association of demons, but he still never changed himself, and he never got influenced by their demoniac character. Now, I think in the morning Bhagavatam reading that is going on right now, in that this is being discussed, where Prahlad Maharaj actually was the one who was creating positive influence for all the other kids, and they picking up the devotional services of practice, right? How is that happening? When two people meet, there is one who is giving association, the other is taking association, right? If you are strongly situated in your own sadhana, then you would be giving association and not taking. So when we go into a place where we are not in association with devotees, if we end up taking their association, we will feel lower, and we will see the change of mood. That is true. But if through strong sadhana we are able to maintain that strong inner self as Krishna conscious, then instead of we taking their association, we will be giving them association. So we will remain as Krishna conscious always, but others around us will get tiny bit of Krishna consciousness. Right? That is why a strong sadhana, and Srila Prabhupada, the reason why he gave this morning program was because of that reason. Solidly situate yourself at the very start of the day and then go out and conquer the world. Right? So that is the case. Now, to your point of not trying to restrict yourself in some ways to end up saying Hare Krishna to somebody else, you have to be intelligent in order to see how to do it. It's not necessary, it's not a rule that you have to do it with everybody. I was just, when we were coming in the Prabhupada Dila Vedanta, we were listening, a lot of devotees wrote letters to Srila Prabhupada. What is that is okay during book distribution and what is not okay? Are we okay to go in non-devotional clothes and distribute books? Whatever is favorable, pick that up. Okay? So, like I'll give you my example of sometimes what I will do. I do it purposely sometimes. Okay? I cannot say Hare Krishna. So we'll do the normal good morning, how are you? All combinations of everybody saying good morning to everybody, and you play around with it. But like for example, you sometimes stretch yourself, oh Krishna, you're nothing Krishna. So you have to be very intelligent. Are you able to incorporate? Are there some people with whom you are able to say? Others, are you able to give them the name Krishna somehow without, disturbing them, but still giving them Krishna? And others, you might just be intelligent and say, don't touch them. Right? So that's where intelligence comes in. You're dealing with people. The baseline has to be pleasing. If we deal with people in such a way that we leave them with a bad taste, that's the worst. That is what we have to avoid. Now, while not giving them a bad taste based on their own appetite, give them a little dose wherever, whenever possible, but based on their appetite. Right? Any questions? Yes.
What if we're the people, or like, if I'm experiencing a problem where I'm going to like media and stuff that isn't Krishna conscious, what can I do to stop myself?
You saying media as a medium to gain information?
Yeah.
So, that's a very good point because that is what is going to be coming up next also in the next paragraphs of purport. So, we have to be very careful. Now, it is okay. Let me break it up. First thing, we have to be very careful of what we intake in terms of through senses, what are the senses getting engaged with. Because right now our mind is not fully in control. So the senses are driving the mind to an extent. Ideally, the mind should be strong enough to drive the senses. Right? And the mind is driven by intelligence. But in our case, because we are still in the process of purification, the senses will drive us. So when we watch, listen to things which are not Krishna conscious, they will have some elements which will agitate our mind. Now, we are talking about, let's talk about the idealistic stage. You should totally be refraining from any such content. Okay? But let's be practical for a minute. We are in the journey right now. What first thing we need to do is, for any of these urges controlling for that matter, we have to understand what is the goal. What is the standard that we have to try and meet. Okay? So the ideal standard we are saying is, you are engaged in only, you are engaging your senses only in Krishna conscious content and nothing else. Right? That's the idealistic. Are we there yet? No. We're still watching things, we're still reading things, we're still doing a lot of things that we're not supposed to do. So, the first point of improvement or getting better is to identify the problem. So, we have identified I am here, where I am on social media networks, let's say for example, for 3 hours a day. I'm supposed to be going to 0, you know the gap. Now, from here, your being at 3 hours is only okay till when you are planning and working steadily to use it and go towards 0. It is acceptable, your current state of not being perfect is only acceptable if we are moving towards perfection. Right? We cannot become perfect overnight, let's accept that. If we try and achieve perfection overnight, we cannot do it. But if we are on the path of gradually progressing and going towards perfection, then our current state of imperfection is acceptable. How do we see that? What we are supposed to be doing is, we are supposed to be seeing, am I being more Krishna conscious today as I was yesterday, a week ago, a month ago, or a year ago? If you are seeing gradual progress happening, right, we are good. The only thing you have to see is your rate of progress equating to your potential or not? Right? One is total still. This is a very beautiful example that Gurudev gives, right? We are supposed to be ecstatic about Krishna consciousness. Being ecstatic. If we are not improving, not changing, we are static. And a static pond will start static.
Yeah.
So don't be static, be ecstatic. That's what my Guru Maharaj says, right? So one is that yes, there needs to be a certain flow, but that flow, is it based on your potential right now or not? That is also second criteria. Not just that, okay, I'm doing a little bit. Last year I was doing 1 round of chanting. This year I'm doing 2 rounds of chanting. That's an improvement. Good, you're in the right direction. But you had the potential that in 1 year you could have come to 8 or 16 rounds of chanting. So if you have the potential, not fully utilizing your potential is also wrong. Right? So that is why when we are talking with respect to senior devotees, they do things such as sadhana charts. What is your goal? What is your plan to progress? And then are you trying to go with that plan or not? Those things are only to motivate us and continuous improvement. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Any last question before we move? Good? All satisfied? Jai. Okay, let's go to the next paragraph. You can start with you.
As for the agitations of flickering mind, they are divided into 2 divisions. The first is called avirodha priti, or unrestricted attachment, and the other is called virodha yukta krodha, anger arising from frustration. By adherence to the philosophy of the Mayavadis, belief in the fruitive result of Karmavadis and belief in plans based on materialistic desires are called avirodha priti. Gyanis, karmis and materialistic plan makers generally attract the attention of conditioned souls. But when the materialists cannot fulfill their plan and when their devices are frustrated, they become angry. Frustration of material desire reduces anger.
Let's stop there. Thank you. So, first thing, right? The flickering of mind. Now, we talk about threefold miseries. What are those threefold miseries? Does anyone remember?
I know them in English.
Yeah, tell me.
The body and the mind,
Uh-huh.
other living entities, and natural conditions.
Right. Anybody remember the Sanskrit? No?
Adhyatmika Klesha, Adhibhautika Klesha, and Adhidhaimika Klesha.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So, those are the threefold miseries. Now, let's talk about the one that you mentioned about suffering from miseries because of your own mind. Somebody comes and says something to you, takes 10 seconds to be said, and it's done. But you keep thinking about it for 10 days and keep suffering because of it. That is suffering because of mind. Now, why? Now, let's refer to what is being said in Bhagavad Gita. While contemplating the objects of senses, the senses get attached to them. Right? There's desire that comes in. When those desires grow further, it becomes lust. When that lust is not satisfied, that's where Srila Prabhupada is talking about all of these plans, it leads to frustration and anger. And that's exactly what Srila Prabhupada is mentioning over here. The agitation of mind is happening only because it is being driven by the senses. And it is because of all that reason is only backwards coming up that we are in the mode of coming in anger and our mind is flickering. Because we are just, the horses, remember that picture that we see in Bhagavad Gita?
Yeah.
The horses are the senses The horses are going here and there, anywhere in direction, they're not listening to the chariot driver, and the passenger or the chariot is all suffering because of it. Right? That's basically the full conclusion of it. Right? So, flickering of mind, the urge of the mind needs to be controlled by controlling of the urge of senses. That is where now we are getting into the point where there are connections, there is dependencies between each of them. So, why does Srila Prabhupada talk about the full sadhana practice? Is because of this reason. Your enemy can attack from any direction. It could be coming in because you're not having. Okay, let's pause at that point. Let's read on further and then we'll come to that. We already.
Similarly, the demands of body can be divided into three categories: the demands of tongue, the belly, and genitals. One may observe that these three senses are physically situated in a straight line as far as the body is concerned, and that the bodily demands begin with the tongue. If one can restrain the demands of tongue by limiting its activity to eating of prasad, the urges of belly and genitals can automatically be controlled. In this
pause for there for a second and we'll continue. So this is very important, right? Srila Prabhupada is talking about the dependency between them. And if we analyze it and what is happening to us very carefully, we will realize it is true. If our tongue is not in control, our belly cannot be in control, our genitals cannot be in control. All of them are connected. One issue leads to the issue in somewhere else also. So when we talk about things such as, I'm not progressing in Krishna consciousness, I'm not having a focus of mind, we have to understand the underlying cause could be coming in from any of them and it is making other things fall. Why don't I have control over my tongue? Because I'm not controlling my mind. Why is that I'm not having control in my mind? Because I'm not controlling my genitals. And so on and so forth. They are all connected to each other. And that is why now Srila Prabhupada is saying, let's talk about first the urge of the tongue itself. Now, one thing that we have to understand over here is when we started talking in this purport, we started talking from the urge to speak. Tongue has two functions, which is to speak and to taste. Right? So we have talked about the speaking part as the urge to speak already. But now we will talk about the urge of the tongue in the terms of it tasting things. And it's craving for more and more. You can continue.
Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Sharira Vidyaja
Jyoti Vidhyata Ekana Jiva Pere Sensare Tamarapate Jivahari Logo Moe Sudharvati Take Jita Nasare Krishna Bala Dayamai Kori Bare Jivacha Swapasada Lilo Vai Seyana Vitapa Radha Krishna Gunuka Premena Koshi Chaitanya
we have some time for that. O Lord, this material body is a lump of ignorance, and the senses are a network of paths leading to death. Somehow or other, we have fallen into the ocean of material sense enjoyment, and of all, the tongue is the most voracious and uncontrollable. It is very difficult to conquer the tongue in this world, but you, dear Krishna, are very kind to us. You have sent this nice prasad to help us conquer the tongue. Therefore, let us take this prasad to our full satisfaction and glorify your Lordship, Sri Sri Radha Krishna, in love and call for the help of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda.
You can continue with the next one.
There are 6 kinds of rasa taste, and if one is agitated by any one of them, he becomes controlled by the urges of the tongue. Some persons are attracted to the eating of meat, fish, crabs, eggs, and other things produced by semen and blood and eaten in the form of dead bodies. Others are attracted by eating vegetables, creepers, spinach, or milk products, but all for the satisfaction of the tongue's demands. Such eating for sense gratification, including the use of extra quantities of spices like chili and tamarind, is to be given up by Krishna conscious persons. The use of pan, haritaki, betel nuts, various spices used in pan making, tobacco, LSD, marijuana, opium, liquor, coffee, and tea is indulged in to fulfill illicit demands. If we can practice accepting only remnants of food offered to Krishna, it is possible to get free from Maya's victimization. Vegetables, grains, fruits, milk products, and water are proper foods to offer to the Lord as Lord Krishna himself prescribes. However, if one accepts prasadam only because of its palatable taste and thus eats too much, he also falls prey to trying to satisfy the demands of the tongue. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us to avoid very palatable dishes even while eating prasadam. If we offer palatable dishes to the deity with the intention of eating such nice food, we are involved in trying to satisfy the demands of the tongue. If we accept the invitation of a rich man with the idea of receiving palatable food, we are also trying to satisfy the demands of the tongue. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Leela 6.227, it is stated, Chivara Radase ye iti puti raya, Shishunugara Parayana Krishna Nahi Padaya. That person who runs here and there seeking to gratify his palate and he who is always attached to the desires of his stomach and genitals is unable to attain Krishna.
Let's stop it. Thank you. So see over here, we first started talking about the urge of the tongue to taste palatable dishes, right? And Srila Prabhupada so expertly, so smartly ties it to the urge of the stomach. What is the difference? What is the difference between the urge of the tongue and the urge of the stomach? Yes.
The urge of the tongue is to taste,
Okay.
and the urge of the belly is to it's similar actually. Fulfillment.
That's correct. Thank you. That's a good word. So the reason why Srila Prabhupada has combined them together in the purport is because they are very strongly connected to it. One is the urge for us to eat tasty things, something that is very pleasing to the tongue in terms of the flavor of it. But then the other is the urge that I need to eat something. I'm hungry. That is the urge of the belly. Because I'm hungry, I'm going to do anything right now in order to satisfy my hunger, even if it is something which is not today. I will do. Right? So the two are connected in some sense. That one is that I need to eat palatable dishes, and the other is I cannot be without food. Right? Now, over here we just read the prayers that we recite before of honoring Prasada, right? I hope it did not make everybody hungry. But yeah, so the idea over there is just to always remind us the fact that our senses are always making us drive to satisfy the urge to the taste and the belly. But because this is a material body, it has to be fed. It has to be given food stuff. So Krishna has very mercifully given us this process of saying you offer it to me and then have Krishna Prasadam, and in that way you will be able to satisfy that urge without getting engaged and entangled in the modes of material nature. So that is why we very thankfully pray to him first for giving us this amazing mercy, right? And now this part that I have highlighted over here, there are 6 tastes of rasas. Do you mind doing a search for the 6 tastes of Ayurveda? If you are able to. Ayurveda, and for that matter, it's in fact also talks about 6 different tastes as being. See, those 6 tastes is.
I have this.
Oh, fantastic.
So sour, pungent, astringent, bitter, salty, and sweet.
Fantastic. So, from an Ayurveda perspective, a balanced diet is having all these 6 flavors in balanced approach, right? But the way we are, if we get into the urge of the tongue that for somebody eating too spicy is what they find palatable, that is they are going in and trying to satisfy the urge of their tongue. Why don't we eat things such as onion and garlic?
Things the Lord knows, but also agitate.
The answer is right here.
They are pungent, that's why.
Oh,
Correct. They're extreme in a particular of these 6 flavors, and hence they're categorized as, and all of the other factors of being in the mode of ignorance and all are correct. But basically, let's understand the fact that if we are trying to eat anything which is extreme in any one of these 6 or any 2 of these 6, or in that sense, extreme in any of them, is categorized as not being sattvic or something which is good for us, for our consciousness, for our body. right? So both, it's not good for both the soul and the body. So what are we supposed to be having? What is supposed to be the term I use was sattvic, which is in the mode. It should be balanced in all that aspects, and that is what we are supposed to be offering to Krishna. Remember last week we were talking about that just because we are offering it to Krishna does not make it prasad, even it's not offerable to Krishna. If it is in extreme of any of these, it cannot be offered to Krishna. It has to be balanced. So if we have the urge to eat too pungent, too bitter, too sweet, either of them is not good. Any of the 6 flavors in the food has to be avoided because that then helps us control our senses and keep our mind in a state. Right? So, in this way, if we are offering, and that is why the next highlighted part of it is so important. It's saying, if we accept the invitation of a rich person with the idea of receiving palatable dishes, which means now we are under the mode and trying to satisfy our tongue, and we are not. Srila Prabhupada will go and accept invitations from rich people also. Like technically a sannyasi is not supposed to be doing that, but he did it so that he can go and preach. Like a Trojan horse going into the Grahasta's life and exploding over there and giving them Krishna consciousness because they are not coming out to take it. That's a different strategy of it. But going in over there and just saying I want amazing, they have 50 different dishes. And so it's good to go to their place and reject an offer from a very humble devotee who is trying to come and learn Krishna consciousness and get engaged into the service. That's not it. Right? Again, we're talking about very elevated devotees for them, but from our perspective, what we have to always remember is that we should not be running after food. Like confession here, right? When I started coming, the attraction of Sunday feast was I'll get prasadam and I'll not have to cook. But then prasadam has the magic to be able to convert you over the period of time, right? So initially, as we said, where am I? Where do I have to be? You might have attraction to palatable dishes. You're saying, oh, Sunday mornings or Saturday mornings, let me come in over here because the devotee who comes and cooks breakfast does an amazing job and I want to eat that. Yeah, fine. Okay. But there is attraction for prasadam, fine. But then we have to come to the point where most of the devotee would Puri also from the drains filter out the chipped rice and eat that. I think yes, one of the Goswamis said. Even that was okay for him. Yeah, we are not at that level. We are not expected to do that. But we are supposed to be at least understanding where are we getting and getting driven by the urge to taste better and forgetting the actual mission of it. And again, gradually we engage more and elevate our standards. Okay?
But what if a senior devotee, I mean, he's really doing well with his everything,
Right.
he's making really nice prasadam for it.
Right.
For example, for us, like for Sunday feast, Mahabhagat Prabhu makes it, so we are like, yeah.
As I said, nothing wrong in that. But you have to understand the perspective that when there is not good prasadam available, you should still be beautiful and doing your things. Let's say for example, Sunday mornings Mahabhagat comes and cooks amazing, okay, so I want to come and attend the Mangalarti on Sundays because I get good prasadam. One day I come to know that he is traveling to India, he is not coming to cook, and I am not coming to Mangalarti. Right? Now the objective is getting lost. So appreciating, but okay, we have to appreciate his services and we have to understand the power, where is he getting his power to be able to do his services well, and try and imbibe those same qualities. Right? In that ways you can keep appreciating it. So Srila Prabhupada has so mercifully given us all of these facilities. Right? So for us to use the facilities is not a problem. But we have to understand when the facility is not available, we still have to be doing it. That is where attachment comes in. Right? We are not artificially saying, I don't want palatable dishes at all and announcing it. We are okay with palatable dishes, but it has to be in the mode that, oh, it is Krishna mercifully giving me, I'm accepting it. If Krishna is making arrangement and I don't get anything, I'm fine still. That is what is saying we are not getting attached. right? At our mode, that is where we will be. The Goswamis were at a very, 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 very different level. We cannot imitate there, but that's a very high stage. Any other questions? Yes.
Prabhu, this question as here we also mentioned adherence to the philosophy of Mayavadis, and I have made a lot of friends for distributing books, and few of them they are actually reading it really well. One of the Matajis, she asked me this question, but she recently started reading Bhagavad Gita, and she was like, okay. First she thought like Mayavadis means car means people. Then I told her like this is actually the Mayavadi thinking. So she was like, well, it's like, but it's okay to not do that. I got it. But why are we always saying that we don't have to be Mayavadis? It should be like, okay, I respect that thing too. But I hope you're getting my point.
Yes. So, not that we are disrespectful to Mayavadis. Let's understand that. We, to whatever extent they are able to, they are engaging in some whatever ways they are. Right? We are not disrespectful to anybody. Why do we avoid Mayavadis? Is because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very clearly instructed, says Mayavad kills your devotion. And we are supposed to be protecting our devotion. That is why we avoid it. He says, as soon as there is a Mayavad philosophy going on, close your ears, run away. Because it's poison. So, if I'm being respectful to somebody, does not mean I'm going to accept poison from them. Right? So that's the point. So if it is being so destructive for me, why would I accept it? No, right? We are still in that very small bud state of our bhakti. We are supposed to be very careful and very protective about it. Yes, somebody like Srila Prabhupada, for example, would engage, and we were listening to this while coming, he would engage in conversations in the evening with all of these different people from different philosophical backgrounds. And he would debate with them and defeat them. He can, because he is strongly situated with philosophy, he is strongly situated. Till when we are not strongly situated, we should not go and argue with them. That's our concept. As in when you come to the point where you are strongly situated, where anything that they say is not going to waver you, then you can think under proper guidance to engage in a debate with them. But you still do not accept their philosophy. Right? Being respectful does not mean that I start doing what they do. If being respectful means I'm letting you do what you want to do, I know that is wrong, I try to explain you, but I'm leaving you to your own fate, I'll do what is correct and I'll continue with it. That is being respectful. Right? Any other question? Okay, let's just do the last part of it. Oh, another part. Sorry. Go.
As stated before, the term Vedic ingenitors are all situated in Chaitanya, and they fall in the same category. Lord Chaitanya has said, Balana, Abbe, Vara, Balana, Parives. Do not stress luxury and do not easily share good stuff. Chaitanya, Charitamrita, Andhya 6.236. Those who suffer from crises of the stomach must be unable to control the urges of death. At least according to this analysis, when we desire to eat more than necessarily, we automatically create many inconveniences in life. However, if we observe fasting days like Ekadashi and Janmashtami, we can restrain the demands of the body.
Let's pause very quick for that. This is the point that we were just talking about, right? So Prabhupada very clearly mentions is the difference between the urge of the tongue and the belly. Fasting is important for us to be able to get some control on the belly also. That we are able to go without a full meal and hence getting some control on the urge of the belly also. Do you want to continue next one?
As far as the urges of the genitals are concerned, there are two proper and improper, or legal and illicit sex. When a man is properly matured, he can marry according to the rules and regulations of the Shastras and use his genitals for begetting nice children. That is legal and religious. Otherwise, he may adopt many artificial means to satisfy the demands of the genitals, and he may not use any restraint. When one indulges in the illicit sex, as defined by the Shastras, either by thinking, planning, talking about, or actually having sexual intercourse, or by satisfying the genitals by artificial means. He is caught in the clutches of Maya. These instructions apply not only to householders but also to tyagis, or those who are in the renounced order of life. In his book Premavrita, chapter 7, Sri Jagannath Pandita says, Jagadananda Pandita says, Vairagi Bhai My dear brother, you are in the renounced order of life and should not listen to talk about ordinary worldly things, nor should you talk about worldly things when you meet with others. Do not think of women even in dreams. You have accepted the renounced order of life with a vow that forbids you to associate with women. If you wish to associate with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you must always remember the incident of Chota Haridas and how he was rejected by the Lord. Do not eat luxurious dishes and dress in fine garments, but always remain humble and serve the Lord Sri Sri Radha Krishna in your heart of hearts.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So this is important. Okay. Let's talk about the principle first. Okay. And then heading one paragraph of conclusions. The control of genitals. Genitals to be used, it is very clearly mentioned in the definition part of the book for the genitals to be used only for getting Krishna consciousness. We said it is not also that genitals can be used for having children, it is having Krishna conscious children. Okay. Now what that mean as a definition is you're not engaging into sexual activities till when you're ready for being able to nurture a soul as being Krishna conscious, and that is when you are prepared and you get ready and have Krishna conscious children and then guide them to their life. It also means that we're not using any artificial means to try and satisfy the genitals and saying, I'm not doing sexual activity. But then it ultimately, from the perspective of our consciousness, from the perspective of agitating our mind, is the same. Right? So in no means should we try and agitate the genitals and which agitates them. Okay? It has to be used only in the service of the Lord, which is to have Krishna consciousness. Okay? There's very detailed processes that Srila Prabhupada has mentioned of what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. And that is why we always first take permission from our Guru, because the Guru is able to say, are you at a point where you are able to nurture a child to be Krishna conscious or not? That is why that concept of taking permission exists. Okay. Now, what this quote over here is very important, what we were talking about. The control of genitals cannot happen till when the control of the other elements in the same line happens. Now, feel free to send me an individual one-to-one WhatsApp if you want to discuss any questions that you don't want to openly talk about. But the control of genitals cannot happen completely till when we have controlled our tongue, till when we have controlled our mind, till when we have controlled our senses. Why is she? And this concept, which Srila Prabhupada has mentioned at multiple times, it's in the quotation is talking about a sannyasi, but it applies for everybody. It applies to a brahmachari, it applies to a grahastha also. We were talking about looking at social media content, right? And any other similar things. If we are looking at that content, what is the problem? The problem is something in there might just move into our mind and create a desire or trigger something else which might make us lose control over our genitals. They're all connected. If we are eating food by somebody who is, which is cooked by somebody who is, uncontrolled with respect to sexual activities, that loss of control also comes into us. So what we are eating, what are we listening, what are we seeing, all comes in. So if at any stage, if we find ourselves struggling in being able to control our mind, control our tongue, control our genitals, control our anger, we have to understand the fact that till when we do not close all entry doors, it's not good. We are not fully safe, we are not fully controlled, we are not fully stabilized. Right? So just because in saying, oh, it is a trouble with me trying to control my genitals, it's not just that. It's because I do not have control on my eyes and ears, and I'm watching things which is stimulating me. That is why I'm losing control. So all of them are connected. So that full total control, total platform of cleanliness of Krishna consciousness can be only achieved if we are sincerely following the principles. We might not be following it completely now, but we have to gradually do it. I'm using the word gradually with caution because I know everybody struggles through it, but there is a sense of urgency also. ASAP. There's so many different things that have been given by Srila Prabhupada as analogies and so many different ways he's explained to us of how destructive it is for us to be engaged in such activities. Both natural, unnatural, artificial, whatever ways we talk about. And that's what's the problem with the society these days. Right? Questions? We can talk about that.
Bro, it was written that all concepts is straight line, and you said that if we control our tongue, we can automatically control our belly and genitals.
Yes.
It is because that it is in the straight line because it is there is only one same nerve that goes to the tongue, and
I don't think it's from the perspective of it being controlled by the same nerve, that biology concept I'm not 100% sure of.
Because I have heard that like someone one devotee told me that it is because of the nervous system also. So
Unfortunately, I have not read that anywhere, so I cannot decimate it. But what Srila Prabhupada is talking from a straight line perspective also is that connection, that linkage. Yes, one leads to another. And in that way, they are all connected. Yes, if it is not physically connected by a nerve or not, that I don't know, but they are surely connected from cause and effect perspective. Okay. Any other things? Any other comment? Yes? All good? Okay, then let's go to the last paragraph.
The conclusion is that one who can control these 6 items, speech, mind, anger, tongue, belly, and genitals, is to be called a Swami or Goswami. Swami means master, and Goswami means master of the go, or senses. When one accepts the renounced order of life, he automatically assumes the title of Swami. This does not mean that he is the master of his family, community, or society. He must be master of his senses. Unless one is master of his senses, he should not be called Goswami, but Godasa, servant of the senses. Following the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, all Swamis and Goswamis should fully engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As opposed to this, the Godasas engage in the service of the senses, or in the service of the material world. They have no other engagement. Prahlad Maharaj has further described the Godasa as Adanta Go, which refers to one whose senses are not controlled. An Adanta Go cannot become a servant of Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.30, Prahlad Maharaj has said, Matirne Krishna Bhagavata Sadoha Vido Vivagde Gavaratanam Adanta Gobe Rishtam Kavishtam Puna Puna Sharvita Charvananam. For those who have decided to continue their existence in this material world for the gratification of their senses, there is no chance of becoming Krishna conscious, not by personal endeavor, by instruction from others, or by joint conferences. They are dragged by the unbridled senses into the darkest region of ignorance, and thus they madly engage in what is called chewing the chewed.
So the conclusion is pretty strong. Let's go backwards again, right? If we have no control over our life, if we don't have perfect control over our senses, there is no hope we have into Krishna consciousness. That's the standard we need to follow. That's the standard we need to aim for. We are not there. That does not mean that we give up. and be disheartened and saying, I'm not there, I'm worth nothing. What it means is there is a lot of distance that has to be covered, and so it has to be planned and executed. Right? As I said, you can only improve if you have addressed or acknowledged the deficiency. Otherwise, you cannot improve. Right? So, till when, if we are at this stage, reading this conclusion and coming to the point, I am not there, that's the first step done. The second step is to sit down and say, how do I get there? And third step is to make that. Right? So, none of us are there. Irrespective, we have some deficiencies or the other, but we have to acknowledge that deficiency. And for that reason, we have concepts about mentorships. We have concepts about guru. All of them. We either have a Diksha Guru or a Shiksha Guru. We should take all of these facilities that is available to us. We should surrender completely in this aspect to say, I'm not there. Or for that matter, even this. Sometimes we do not acknowledge or identify our own deficiencies. But some senior devotee is going to come and tell us. We should at least be at a point to be able to humbly accept saying, maybe what you're saying is right. And put that into our list of things to be imperfect. Okay? So that completes the verse, the text 1. And next week we'll go to text 2. We can take just 2-3 minutes more for any questions or comments, and otherwise we can have offline conversations as we usually do. Anybody else?
So not engaging the senses in the sense object is the solution, or?
That is not possible for us to do. Right? We cannot refrain. So there are one of the two ways in which things can be done. Either restrict your senses, refrain them, drag them back from sense objects, which is very difficult. The process of detachment is very difficult. The easy process is attachment. If we engage all our senses in the service of Krishna, then they're automatically not interested in any other things which they are not supposed to be going to do. Why do we have processes such as offering flowers to the lotus feet of the Lord and then smelling it? Because those are different ways in which we engage every sense of us in the sense of the Lord. Right? So the process of attachment is to use and make everything that you're doing Krishna conscious. You like dancing, singing, you like whatever, it can be made Krishna conscious. And that is where the guidance comes in. Right? Yes.
Is the process of detachment even like possible or not? Because Mahaprabhu says like Krishna Surya Samam and Maya Hai Andhakara. So that means it's not possible, or is it?
So in today's Kali Yuga it's not possible. In Satyayug, when they would meditate for tens and thousands of years, yes, they did. But then the problem is, what is the probability of failure? When you are trying to control yourself, then the probability of you getting deviated and do at least one thing small wrong is very high. Right? We talk about the person who's attacking needs to win only once. Maya only needs to win once. So even if you, as in the process of detachment, end up getting in contact with sense objects even once, you're done. It starts the dominoes effect. Right? You might be coming to the temple regularly, very nicely, you're feeling better, you're feeling good. One day you take off and go out with friends and do something, it starts the dominoes effect. One thing leads to another, 10 minutes, let me watch something. Or it becomes an hour. Or let me just finish this episode. Or let me just finish this series. Let me just. It's a dominoes effect. Right? So Maya has to win just that once to get in. So for us to control and have a very perfect boundary where Maya cannot come in is very difficult. The analogy that Srila Prabhupada takes is wonderful. He says, if you want to fill a bottle with clean water, what do? Like there's dirty water, you want to remove that dirty water. You just keep filling it with clean water, the dirty water is going to go out. Try doing this, right? Take a bottle, put in some soap, put a little water, shake it well, you have soapy water inside. How do I get rid of it? Keep pouring water. Slowly as you take all the soapy water is going to go out and all you will have is water which is not soapy. Right? That is the process of Krishna consciousness. Keep injecting Krishna consciousness so much that everything else is automatically driven away. That's an easier and a much safer process to do. Okay? Yes,
Let me say something. This morning and even in yesterday's Bhagavatam class, Gurudas Prabhu was saying, that Srila Prabhupada would say that Krishna is everything that we do. And I just question and randomly of that, so I just wanted to share that.
No, thank you so much. That's a very good point. Yes, as Paramatma, Krishna is always there and a witness of everything that we are doing. So, yeah, we're not supposed to be cheating ourselves. If we try and say, oh, it's okay, nobody knows I did it, so it's fine. But no, Krishna. Our consciousness knows. Alright, fantastic. Last question. Anyone? Before we break.
I just want to add something.
Yes.
I really love the fact that you mentioned like how we can preach or at least share the name of Krishna with your employees.